Here we have a SAT math problem. Okay, let's go to the question. In the xy plane above, the base of a rectangle is on the x-axis and the upper vertices are on the parabola y equals to 10 negative 2x square. Which of the following represents the area of the rectangle? Okay, in the given figure, we have to find the area of this rectangle. And here, the base of the rectangle is on the x-axis and the upper two vertices on the parabola over here. And when I consider the vertex of the parabola, it is on the y-axis. Since we have the vertex of the parabola on the y-axis, we can consider the y-axis as the axis of symmetry of this parabola. And also, since we have the two vertices of the rectangle and the parabola, so the length of the rectangle, either this line segment or this line segment, has been divided into two equal parts by the axis of symmetry, that is y-axis. So that is whatever length I am getting for this line segment, the same length I will be getting for this line segment. Okay, here once I get the length of this line segment, the same can be considered as the length of this line segment. When I add them, I'll be getting the length of the rectangle. Then I have to get the width of the rectangle. Then I have to multiply them to get area of this rectangle. Okay, now to get the length of this line segment, let me consider the point A comma B. Okay, now let's consider the x coordinate at this point, that is A. So corresponding to this point, the value on the x-axis over here is A. Okay, here the y coordinate is B. Corresponding to this point, the value on the y-axis over here is B. Okay, now let's consider the point A comma B. It is in the second quadrant of this xy plane. In second quadrant, x coordinate will be negative and y coordinate will be positive. That is, this A will be a negative value and B will be a positive value. Okay, here clearly this A is negative because it's on the negative side of x-axis. Okay, now if I want to get the length of this line segment, I have to get the distance from the origin to this point. So always the length will be positive. Now to get the length of this line segment, we have to consider the value in the x-axis over here, but this is negative value. Now to get the length of this one, we have to consider the same value over here as positive. For that, I have to multiply this value by negative, then I'm getting negative A. This is the length of this line segment. For example, if I want to assume some value for A over here, what value can I assume? I can assume some negative value for A over here because it is on the negative side of x-axis. So now let me assume A equals to negative 3. Okay, here now to get the length of this line segment, I have to consider the same value over here, but it has to be positive. For that, what I have to do is I have to multiply this negative 3 by negative sign, then it will become positive 3. Then 3 will be the length of this line segment when A equals to negative 3. So the same thing I have done with this A over here. A is negative. To get the length of this line segment, I have to make this negative value as positive. For that, I can multiply this negative value, that is A, by negative sign. Okay, here, whatever length I am getting for this line segment, the same length I will be getting for this one as well, that is negative A. Now, let's consider the length of this rectangle. The length of the rectangle is, we have to add these two quantities. When I add them, I am getting negative 2A. Okay, here I got the length of the rectangle, that is negative 2A. Now to get the width of the rectangle over here, that is the length of this vertical line segment, we have to consider the y coordinate of this point. Actually, the y coordinate is positive because in the second quadrant, y is positive. So we can consider this y coordinate as the length of this vertical line segment. So that is the width of the rectangle. Okay, here negative 2A is the length of the rectangle and B is the width of the rectangle. Now let's find the area of the rectangle. Let me do it over here. Area of a rectangle equals to, the formula is length times width. Okay, here the length is negative 2A and the width is B. Okay, here I got the area of the rectangle, but when I go over the answer choices, in each answer choice, I have the area of rectangle only in terms of A. So there is no B. Now we have to get some stuff for B in terms of A. For that, what we can do is we can consider the equation of the parabola y equals to 10 negative 2x square. And also the parabola passes through the point A comma B because we have this point on the parabola. Since we have this point on the parabola, we can plug in this x coordinate A for x over here and y coordinate B for y over here. Then I am getting B equals to 10 negative 2a square. Okay, when I plug in this point A comma B into the equation of the parabola, I got the stuff for B equals to 10 negative 2a square. Now we can plug in this 10 negative 2a square for B over here. Then I'm getting negative 2a times 10 negative 2a square. Now we can distribute this negative 2a to this 10 and negative 2a square. When I multiply this negative 2a and 10, I'm getting negative 20a. Negative times negative will become positive. 2 times 2 is 4. A times a square is a to the third power. We can write this 4a cube at first, then we get 4a cube, and we can write this one now negative 20a. Okay, here I got the area of the rectangle in terms of a. We find this stuff 4a cube negative 20a in answer choice D. The correct answer choice for this question is D.